Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In Talk Radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
To Liberty Talk Radio, I'm your host, Joe Cristiano. This is your Libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. Today, folks, we are pleased to have Carl Loser. He's a Libertarian candidate for the Virginia State Senate. Carl feels passionately that our current government is not working for us. In fact, as citizens, we are working to live within the boundaries that our, or their, government has created. Excellent point. Join us during our live broadcast by calling 646-652-4620. That's 646-652-4620. I'd like you to dial 1 to alert us that you'd like to make a comment, ask a question, or else we'll just see your telephone number on the board. If you press 1, then it'll alert us that you want to be part of the program. All right, so we look forward to hearing from you. Carl, welcome to our show.
Hey, thank you, Joe.
Well, it's great. Carl, unfortunately, I have to admit I was in your position. I ran for U.S. Congress under the Libertarian ticket when there was a Libertarian Party here in the state of Oklahoma. But to become a party in the state of Oklahoma, you need like 220% of the people voting for Libertarians. You know, it's one of those things. And no matter how many signatures that you garner, that's never enough. I think it's 85,000 signatures, so whatever it is, or 55,000. So you give them 85,000, they throw out half of them, and they save 5,000 short. I don't know how they do that within 30 minutes. It's beyond me. But it's obviously a very corrupt, closed-loop system. How is it in Virginia? And how did you get on a Libertarian ticket? And how come there's a Libertarian ticket? What kind of activity is there going on?
Okay, well, in Virginia, we actually have ballot access as well. Well, we don't have actual ballot access. We have something that requires 1,000 for congressional candidates that you were speaking of. For my case, for a senatorial candidate, we need 250 verified registered voters to be, to sign your petition. And then for state delegate, you got 125 registered voters from your district. So
it's not that the Libertarian Party has to be recognized by the state. It's the person that's running has to be affiliated with a party, and if that person receives 250 or more signatures, valid signatures, then you can run under that party in that state.
That's correct.
Oh, that's terrific. I mean, that surely beats 55,000, or I think it was 55 or 85,000. It was impossible. We had people coming in from out of state helping out, and we had people on every street corner. And still, even though we thought we had twice the number of signatures that we needed, they still wouldn't accept it. And then that's how frustrating it's been in Oklahoma.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine.
I'll be honest with you. I would, if they had the same rules in Oklahoma as they do in your state, the state of Virginia, that I would have been very, very tempted to run again. You know.
Sure.
And anyway, I won't get into that because it was an ugly experience. The time that I did run, the Libertarian Party was a legitimate, party on the ballot, and
sure.
I can spend hours talking about the horrors of that campaign and everything that I had to go through. But I'll spare that because it's your program. Carl, tell me, who are you running against, and what are your chances, and what is your platform? Now, obviously, you don't have the right name. I'm sure everyone teases you about that, right? This is nothing new. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got to use it for the best.
That's right. How do you take that? And I don't want to be trite by because I'm sure you get this every single day. But how do you respond to that? I'm sure you've come up with some unique comments or retorts.
Well, if you haven't had a chance, my Facebook page is filled up with my brand, which is the Loser L. I put it on the forehead because it's for Liberty L. And, I have Nicholas Sarwalk and my campaign manager. We had a big picture on my cover photo that says, that shows, I'm a loser for liberty because liberty always wins. So, and that's why
Okay.
I'm running.
All right. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now, tell me about your campaign. Are you a front runner? Are you a trail runner? Or are you in the thick of things? And who are you running against?
Well, my race particularly is one of the biggest races in Virginia at this time, because there's 21 in the Senate and 21 seats held by the Republican in the Senate, I believe the Republican, and 19 seats held by the Democrat. My particular race has been, it can go either way, and they say that it's gonna be a swing race. So right now it's held by a Republican. He's retiring, and so there's not gonna be any incumbent. But when it comes to my opponents, I have one whose name is Dan Gecker, and he was the attorney for, trying to remember exactly, it was he helped one of the Clintons' family members, not family members, crew, I guess you could just say. He helped with their defense. So he's getting money from McAuliffe, Governor McAuliffe, who's also in the pockets of the Clintons.
I see.
So they're saying he's going to spend at least over $1 million for his campaign.
All right. Now, you're going to spend at least $3 million, right?
Oh, probably a lot. Come on.
Well, all right. Now, of course, that was a problem that I had in that, of course, the entrenched Republican Party, they were spending like millions of dollars, which I didn't do. I spent $380 on my campaign. And so how are you combating that? How you can?
Well, I think the best thing to do is door knocking. Yes, is it the original cliche? Yes, but it's effective and it works. And canvassing, meeting people, going to events, speaking, that is the grassroots. That is what will get voters to come out and vote for you. And of course, social media, using free resources that is available to you, that's helping my campaign out, and It's actually been very effective.
Yeah. Well, going for state senate, at least you can visualize the boundaries, the physical boundaries of your district, and you can somewhat cover it. When you run for U.S. Congress, as I did, it's just too large. Either you have a few $1,000,000 or you get out of the race, basically. And I was forced to do this, by the way. I didn't volunteer for that particular position. All right, now, what tactics are you using? What strategy are you using for your campaign right now?
Well, I recently I put a music video on. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I did not. I'm sorry, I did not see that.
Basically, I have a music video, and I'm trying to reach out to people who are typically not interested in politics at all, or want to see change, but they're kind of discouraged. And we did a hip hop music video. We noticed that the Black community is very disenfranchised with politics themselves, and we represent everyone. We're not a party that takes sides. You see the Republicans and Democrats. Democrats are assumed to be they take the black vote. Republicans are white vote. Well, I disagree. We shouldn't be classifying people, and I think people, once they start listening and understanding that, they really, actually, I've gotten a lot of success speaking to the Black community, because they want change. No one's coming to them anymore. The Democrats just assume. They don't even go to their communities anymore. They just assume they have their vote. Well, I'm going to their communities. I'm speaking to them. I'm going to their issues, and I'm going to, help the Libertarian way of making it equal for everybody.
What do you tell the Black community then? What approach are you taking? Because I'm sure most of them have heard it all, and they don't want to hear it again. So what are you saying that's so different that may allow them to connect with what you are saying and want to vote for you?
Sure, that's an excellent question. I think that's something that libertarians actually struggle with. Well, me and my campaign manager is black, and he's helped me out a lot with talking with the black community. I never had any problems. It's just, it came a lot easier with having someone in that community. So what I realized is you first, don't be afraid to recognize their history and where they come from. But at the same time, don't be, oh, hey, you're black, let me, I'm going to talk to you because you're black. No, I'm talking to you because you're a person. But, definitely I usually bring up the issue, like I'm really tired of the black community not being recognized as people because, they're just overlooked. And I think that when you recognize them as a community, as well as you recognize their history, their struggles they've gone through. But the thing is, with the libertarian ideals, we are actually going to help them, coexist with everybody and, make it not even a thing. When you get everybody off programs or, you treat people differently because of the way their skin color is or whether they're gay or anything like that, it causes segregation without them even thinking it does. So that's,
Well, what type of issues does the black community in Virginia bring up to you or approach you with?
Well, one I definitely see is ending prohibition of cannabis. It's actually horrible because 2.8 black males are being 2.8 times black males compared to a single white males, I guess you could say, are being prosecuted for possession charges when in Virginia, it's about equal use. And the thing is, why is more black people being prosecuted for possession charges when it's about equal use for everybody? So whether you're white or black.
Right.
So that is a big problem, and that was one issue. Education's huge. That's another issue. And I think that the problem I've been seeing is we've been the black community relies on police to do a lot of its parenting and stability. And my solution is going to create a way it's going to create economic opportunity within that community as well as every other community. And when I create economic opportunity, it's going to allow these parents who have trouble taking care of their children, because that's typically where we find a lot of needs, not to be racist or anything of that, but it's the lower middle class that you find having trouble because they were working full-time jobs and they can't afford daycare because daycare is ridiculously expensive, and their children are just left to go to school, come home, and they're living these lives how they choose. Some of them end up in gangs, some of them end up in places they're not supposed to be. But if they had correct parenting, it would help them prosper, and that all comes back to economic opportunity. If the parents were able to have better jobs, they would be able to support their kids better.
I'm from the streets of New York. All right, so I'm a Harlem kid, and so I know what the streets are like. I moved up to the Bronx. I hung around Fort Apache area, the Bronx, 41st precinct, probably the roughest neighborhood in the world. And but the one thing I had in my favor is I had a very strong family. So as bad as things were on the street, as it was always questionable whether I ever make it home again, when I got home, there was always that core family to go back to. And the only difference I see from the lower income blacks in these neighborhoods is that in many cases the kids don't have the opportunity to go back to a family like I did. See, my mother was always home. She didn't even drive a car. She never learned to drive. She was always home. And so there was always a home base for me. And these poor kids don't have home bases. Now,
Absolutely.
A lot of it has to do, I know this gets very, very complicated because people can say, well, there are too many black young girls getting pregnant, very young, going on welfare, relying on the state. And once they rely on the state, they realize they could never, ever make enough money, to match the benefits they're getting from the state if they got a job at Walmart or whatever, an entry-level job. So we create this cycle of dependency, and then we vilify them because they don't work, they have kids are out on the street. It just seems to be, it always seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that whenever you want to find out the core problem, the basic problem to all of our ills, look at the government. If you got rid of the government, somehow things would correct themselves. It may take time, but eventually things would correct themselves.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, how do you approach that when you speak to them? When you're speaking to blacks, a black community, and they're in this dilemma, how do you provide them with a solution? You said you want to provide them with economic opportunity. How, in fact, could you do that?
Okay, well, it comes down to, my goals as an elected official. I want to. Have you ever heard of the Certificate of Public Need?
No.
Okay, well, it's a program in Virginia. Basically, what it is that every time a healthcare provider or a doctor's office, hospital, anything of that nature wants to expand their office, add new operating tables, add new equipment, they have to go and apply for a certificate of public need through the Department of Health in Virginia, through the government. And basically what it does is it raises healthcare costs because the board of the Department of Health is appointed by the governor. And there's a problem with that already because when you give this notice that you're going to petition for this certificate of public need, you also have to make your competition aware in your area, saying, I am going to apply to get more equipment in my hospital, and your hospital has to know that I'm going to apply for this need.
That makes no sense to me unless I miss something.
No, it really doesn't. It's actually the silliest idea ever. The reason it's kept in play is because Democrats and Republicans both benefit from it because it's whoever gets appointed as governor typically gets a lot of campaign funds for their party, because when they appoint the board makes decisions not typically because, it's a public need, but who donated to my campaign more?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Who's
So,
feeding me?
Who's feeding me? And so it is a stupid law, and I think people don't realize that these laws exist. But what they're basically essentially doing is lowering the supply of healthcare, which is in return raising the cost of healthcare, making these families who either don't have proper insurance or have Medicaid, they're the ones or the taxpayers are the ones that are paying for it, as well as, your insurance premiums if you do. So kind of lower healthcare costs for the families. That's one of my economic, my plans for economic opportunity.
But how does that translate to the single black person who doesn't have a job, that wants to do something? This seems like a very, very far shot from where they're sitting. They're not in the medical community. I mean, they just want an opportunity. How do you open opportunities for people who are in distress in your district?
Absolutely. And I would never say I would create jobs, because to me, when you create jobs in government, you are only, you're only expanding socialism. And
Right.
to me, I'd rather the private industry take care of that. So what my plan is, I want to, for instance, I want to end prohibition of cannabis. That should open a lot of industry for business owners, for people who are used to commission sales, jobs. That's why I also want to end or get rid of the gambling laws in Virginia. We have a monopoly right now on the Virginia lottery, and there's no reason if everybody can handle their money. But what I'm saying is basically when casinos open and stuff like that opens, it provides opportunity for jobs. It provides opportunity to make money and higher GDP. With those casinos opening, it brings in other businesses as well, hotels. It brings in restaurants. It brings in other parts of society that come along with those interests, and I think that will really spark the economy in Virginia, as well as give opportunity to the Black community to start getting involved and start getting better jobs. Because once you spark one side of the things, the other side comes along too. You got law firms that'll have to open up to protect these casinos and stuff like that. And so it's a
But
big industry.
what you're doing, I applaud that. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Sure.
100% agreement. But
Sure.
here you have a person, maybe a young person who wants to be productive. Casinos, cannabis, all these gambling laws. That's non-productive behavior. Production is producing something. It's
Sure,
developing
absolutely.
something, growing something, packaging something, selling something.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
I suspect that if they have practically nothing, that is like the government doing something for them,
Sure.
Creating laws so Donald Trump can come in and open up a casino in your neighborhood and then maybe you can get a job. That seems to me such a long shot. I want to do
Sure.
something today.
Okay.
How do you encourage people to say, they say, I hear this all the time, there are no jobs. Well, of course there's no jobs. You have to create your own jobs. If you want a job, go downstairs and go to people and say, could I wash your car? If you have no money, believe it or not, you'll make a fortune. But
Sure.
In other words, how do we encourage people to be entrepreneurs in producing something, creating something, and developing a business where they in turn can wind up employing more people and building a better community overall? How do we do that, and how do you vocalize that?
That's an excellent question, and thank you
Of
for
course,
asking
an
that.
excellent question. I'm an excellent person.
Yes.
You ever
Joe.
watch Shark Tank? You ever watch Shark
Yeah.
Tank?
Yeah.
Mr. Wonderful.
Of course.
I'm the original Mr. Wonderful. I just want you to know that.
Sure. I actually have a good answer to that question. So one of the things I want to do is end compulsory education laws. Basically, there are families right now who, especially back in the, early 1940s, where children would go at the age of maybe 12, 13, help support their family through getting trades. We don't have trades anymore in America. And what I want to do is basically provide an option that right now in Virginia, you have to be, in order to stop going to school, you have to be the age of 16 years old to get a GED. Otherwise, you're forced to go to school. Now, I think education is great, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if you want to be a farmer, or you want to be a mechanic, get your basic math, reading, writing, arithmetic, logic, get that, your first years of education, and then, you can still coexist in society and then you can also, go into and be an apprentice, maybe making minimum income, but at least learning a trade that you can use. First of all, you're helping your family, and now one day you will be able to use that trade to open your own business. And you start at the age of 13 while your overhead isn't high. So the whole idea is entering compulsory education would give the option to the people, to the parents and the child, to say, you know what, we don't think high school may be the best fit for him, but we want to make sure he becomes an expert in welding, in something we don't see anymore, because those are the jobs of the future. And I think some people give me kind of weird looks about that because they don't want to see their kids going through that, but sometimes there's no other option, and we cannot stop productivity. And I tell you what, I wish I stopped school at the age of 13. Not because I don't think it's bad for you, but because I realize now they forced me to go to college, and I feel like I'm in debt, and I could have just got an apprenticeship and worked somewhere and become a tradesman and start my own entrepreneurial business and basically prospered.
Yeah, well, here's your choice. You can get a college education, right, and maybe a master's degree, and wind up working at Walmart, or you can go to a 2 or 4 year trade school, become a diesel mechanic, and start at $65,000 a year. I mean, really, and not be in debt. Well, to me, it's tantamount to absolute insanity, where we have our children going to school from, depending if they go to preschool, 12 to 13 years, and when they graduate high school, they are capable of doing absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. They take the same courses for 13 years, and yet you ask them, and point to the state of Virginia on the map, and they'll hit Paris. I mean, that's how bad it is. And I don't know why parents haven't woken up to this and saying, get your kids out of school. School sucks. School does nothing for your children, and you are abdicating your responsibility because you are doing nothing to educate your kids, because what you're doing is you're transferring your responsibility to people who have absolutely no idea what's going on in this world.
You're absolutely correct, and I think people are so into having a safety net and a comfort, and that's why most people look to government to handle their problems, when really it should be about personal responsibility and handling your problems efficiently. And if the government wasn't involved in incentivizing college, because that's what they're doing now, is, no, you got to have a degree in order to succeed in life. Well, to me, you have to have a degree to work for someone. Right. If I want to be my own person and start my own business, at $50,000 I'm in debt right now, I could have started my own business and possibly succeeded and been very well off.
Absolutely. In fact, there are so many people now with college educations that really don't mean anything. There's also schools are just propping up all over the place, and there's several here in Tulsa. I mean, I drive down some sort of building that has a college name or a university of blah blah, and that I've never heard of before. Well, they opened up because they're getting phenomenal college funding, and kids are flocking to it. So that when someone applies at Walmart for a job as a checker, they, out of 10 applications, they may have 3 people who have college educations. Well, who are you going to pick? Well, you're going to pick the person with a college education. So now all of a sudden, I lowered the bar, I guess, but you made it so that if you want to be a checker in Walmart, you need a college education. I mean, we're going all down the wrong road. When I was many years ago, I often wondered how over 100 years ago, in a town there would be one schoolhouse, one teacher, and every student was in that one class. and you may have a kid who is 16 in there and one that'll be 6 years old in there, and they're all in the same class. I could never understand that until I realized the reason for that is the school was meant to teach them reading, writing, arithmetic, 3 R's.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that the parents, in many cases, didn't have the education to teach them. I mean, if the parent had the education, they would teach them themselves. They didn't have to go to school. So you had 16-year-old kids who were working on a farm. They'd show up to school with their shotguns and their 22s because they were hunting afterwards, and there would be little kids in school, but they were all being taught just the basics. But once you learned the basics, you went on your own and you learned farming. You learned how to fix a tractor. You learned how to open up a store and sell something. In other words, you learn to be productive on your own. I don't know where our school system fits in that paradigm whatsoever. Or am I just, at my age, losing my mind?
No, I actually, I actually just made the educated decision, I'll use that word, to stop going to school. I didn't finish my bachelor's degree because I learn on my own. I read, I do my own studying, and I don't need a degree because I want to be my own boss.
Right.
And paying more money to people I don't necessarily, paying more money to people that I don't think should be getting paid for education that I deserve, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Honestly, I'm blabbering right now.
No,
but,
that's what's interesting is that I understand what you're saying though, because I was asked to speak to I think it was a master's college class in entrepreneurship, and this business person asked me to. Because I've started businesses, I've failed more times than I succeeded. Let me tell you, I wish I had a perfect record. I have far from a perfect record, but I always made it. I always wound up making it. I got slapped down so many times, I can't tell you. I mean, it's my life is one big smackdown. I feel like a wrestler, And but I succeeded, and I've done very well for myself because I worked day and night. I wouldn't let myself fail. Now, some of those businesses did fail because I wasn't in charge of them. Other people were, and they failed, and they didn't know how to pick themselves up, and I lost a lot of money. But but at least I had the money to lose. And so they asked me to speak to this entrepreneur class. And of course students were probably, 18 years old, 19 years old, whatever. And I recall the professor of the class looked like the stereotypical professor, with the beard and the checkered, what do they call those, Preston, those college, with the pads on it, the jackets with the pads. What do they call them? Blazer type jacket, brownish, I mean, he looked like, if you had to draw a picture of the quintessential professor, this guy would be it. And I recall speaking with the students, and the professor sitting there, and I knew he was fuming. He was absolutely fuming. It never got invited back. The students loved it. I mean, they were literally sitting at the edge of their seats. And for example, they all had their business plans open, ready for me, And I asked this one fellow, I said, "What's that?" He says, "A business plan." I said, "That's very interesting. I never had one myself." I said, "What do you do with it?" And he explained it to me. And I said, "Fine, let's assume for a second that you're going to produce something, and someone calls up. How many can you produce a day?" I said, "Give me a number." He said 1,000. I said, "Okay." Guy calls up. He wants 10,000. How does that fit your business plan? And the kid looked at me. I said, "All right, now the phone calls. The phone rings again. Who's on the other end?" And he looked at me and says, "Well, how would I know?" I said, "Well, if you don't know, how do you make a business plan?" And I said, "Well, all right, let me tell you who it is. It's an attorney. He's suing you because the product hurt somebody. What are you going to do now?" And I had these kids so confused, and they're looking at their business plan saying, "I don't think this is going to do me much good." and basically I got thrown out of the class, But the kids loved it. I mean, they really learned from someone who's been there,
Sure.
But I guess my point being is that how do we get these kids from the academic mindset to the practical mindset of actually doing something and succeeding and failing? How do we do that? I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the poor black person sitting there, who's struggling, saying, well, I agree with this guy says, but what he intends to do may take 30 years. I'll probably be dead by the time this is done. I mean, what could we do? What could he and I do together today, to make our lives better? And I want you to think about that, because we're late for station identification. Would you just stay with us, Carl?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Folks, hold on. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Political talk derived from a historical perspective. Not always palatable, but good food for thought. Pure libertarian talk with host Joe Cristiano. LibertyTalkRadio.com.
Express Test is your go-to company for on-site occupational health testing services. That's right, we said on-site. That means we will meet you at your facility for a free health and occupational safety consultation. Express Test specializes in hearing conservation, respiratory protection, and employee safety. We can help you establish viable programs tailored to your business and employee needs. For your free consultation, call 918-743-2929 or visit us at expresstest.com. That's 918-743-2929 or expresstest.com. Do you find yourself asking, what did you say? Aaron Cristiano of Ranch Acres Audiology has over 25 years of experience helping patients just like you.
Hearing requires conservation. We need to be aware and we need to be responsible for our own hearing health.
Understand more with a little help from Ranch Acres Audiology. Call 918-749-7711. That's 918-749-7711 to learn more. We'd like to thank attorney Constance Squires for her support of Liberty Talk Radio. If you want a comprehensive way to affordably avoid legal issues, call Constance Squires. For a free consultation, call 918-254-9283 or go online at isthyWillDone.com.
Steve Harden of the Harden Insurance Agency has over 30 years of experience designing family insurance protection, including retirement planning. Call 918-488-0024 or go to hardenagency.com and request a free in-depth estate and retirement evaluation. We look forward to earning your trust and helping you meet your life goals.
This isn't your typical talk radio show. This is Liberty. Liberty Talk Radio.
Okay, Carl, thank you for staying with us, and we're back. Folks, this is Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, America's Libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And with us today, we have Carl Loser, who's a candidate for the Virginia State Senate, and he's a Libertarian, and we posed a question to him right before our break, and what is it, if he's speaking to, for example, the black community, who is maybe not doing as well as they should be doing, or is equal to the white community, what is he going to say to them that is materialistic enough for them to grab onto, saying that's a good idea, I want to vote for him because of this, rather than speaking in long-term programs or platitudes? Take it away, Carl. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Joe. I think you also brought up one other point before that as well. And it was, I think that the black community, they are more eager to learn, or more eager to survive within this world. In the job market, in the economic, they are so hungry to succeed in life, and the thing is, they are going to do what it takes to get there, and they have that mindset. But I do think it comes down to getting. I'm still trying to think of a good way that I've been trying to talk with the black community, but I think that you talk to them as people, you don't automatically classify them as socialistic. I don't think that's the case for the most part. I think most people think, oh, well, they're black, so they are Democrat. They believe that that everything should be handed to them, because a lot of them don't think that way.
Well, I don't think any of them think that way. I think they want out of that trap, quite frankly.
Absolutely, and you're right. And I think that when it comes to the black community, they just want comfort, and they want to know that there's some opportunity there for them as well as everybody else, and they feel that their past has not given them that opportunity. But and I feel like the Democrats and Republicans have kind of stunted their growth, and they kind of lost faith in politics. And I'm providing that new opportunity by getting rid of these laws that are essentially segregating them as people.
All right, what laws are you? Well, I want you to be specific. What laws are you referring to?
Okay, I'm talking more like, for instance, food stamps, and people automatically assume, it's black people on food stamps. White people are on it just as well, but because they are categorized as being the ones who use food stamps, they they kind of get defensive when people start talking about food stamps with them. And I think that they don't want to be on food stamps. It's, oh, well, we can't provide the good job opportunity for you, so here's some food stamps. Politicians just are simply throwing money at people to
Correct.
shut them up. And I think what they're really looking for is someone like me who's going to take away these laws, because now if I take away these laws, they have no choice but to go and go out there and try to succeed. And I'm trying to be more specific.
Well, let me help you. I think
Okay.
I think sometimes politicians are afraid to say we're going to take away food stamps because it's going to force you to work. I think that's the wrong approach. I think we should say there is ample opportunity there now for you to work and succeed, and as a result of succeeding, you will automatically go off food stamps and be happy for it, because you'll be a lot better for it internally and externally. In other words, instead of saying we're going to reduce the amount of money for food stamps because our budgets can't handle it, we should say we're going to increase the opportunities, and that means less government. And less government means more opportunities for you. And when less government includes less government schools. If you don't want to go to school, fine, learn a trade. And if you want to, open a trade school, and there won't be so many restrictions that will make it impossible for you to do so.
Absolutely. And I think failure for some people is a very scary, failure is scary for me. I think that is a good tool to actually motivate you to succeed. And what I was going to say is, when you remove these safety nets, you have no choice but to try, or if you want to fail, you can, and you have every right to do so, but that only makes everyone who's trying harder look better.
All right, Carl, let me throw this. I'm putting myself in the audience of let's say, we're talking about the black community, although it doesn't make any difference what community it is, but I'm putting myself in their place, and I'm trying to find a reason to vote for you. Now, one reason why I would vote for you is because you're libertarian, but these people are not libertarian, so you need to give them a reason to vote for you, and so far I don't have that.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
I don't.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, we'll do this, we'll do that. We'll introduce legislation that'll eventually, 30 years down the road may change that. But I'm sitting here saying nothing's going to happen. Absolutely nothing's happening. What I need a reason to vote for you. What is it?
That's a great question. I think
because your whole campaign is going to hedge on that. It's going to hang right on that.
Absolutely. And I think that my campaign is, I guess, is sort of running on the fact that for instance, the Department of Motor Vehicles is so inefficient, and we keep throwing more money into these programs, like, the Department of Motor Vehicles, and they say, oh, well, you got to wait in line for 2 hours just to get a license or get some kind of thing done there. And actually, we keep throwing more money in there, but nothing's done. Clearly, government's not working. And that's my example. It's like we need to basically start growth by taking people off the training wheels and letting them learn to ride the bike without any help.
No, I agree, but you got to be specific with these people.
Sure,
you got to be
absolutely.
specific. You can say, well, the Department of Motor Vehicles, I mean, geez, I don't even have a license. What is this guy talking about? Or if I do have a license, I don't. Quite frankly, my dear, as Butler said in Gone with the Wind. Quite frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Give me something to give a damn about. I mean, what is it that I'm living in this community that is not the best community in the world? It has problems. Unemployment is very high. Their food stamps are very high. Government assistance is very high. There's the crime is high. There's drug problems. Right now, if I vote for you, how will the Department of Motor Vehicles is not going to change anything to me? I don't care what they do. They can go away or they can grow. I don't care. I don't see them, but once every 5 years. What on a minute by minute, day by day basis? What will change? What can you do in concert with me to move this whole neighborhood, the community forward?
I'm going back to one of my original points is ending prohibition of cannabis. I don't know if that's something,
No, I agree there. No, but we said that that is non-productive. How do I feel good about because I can smoke cannabis and not get in trouble doesn't make my life any better because I still have to buy the stuff. I won't go to jail, but I still have to buy the stuff. I'm still walking the streets. I still have no job. I'm nowhere. I mean, I'm a little better off than before because now I'm not playing basketball in the local prison. But other than that, things haven't changed.
I can see what you're saying. I guess I'd have to look into that more. Honestly, I don't.
I think that's the key for you because they're hungry to say they're tired of platitudes and government programs and we're going to change this from 3% to 4.6%. No one gives a damn. No one cares,
Absolutely.
Now, if you say that, for example, you want to shut down the school system, they say, well, I agree with you, but that will take you, even if you're successful, it'll take you 20 years. And you'll probably get shot before that, by some bureaucrat, when I say shot, I meant, politically shot.
Yeah.
And of course, you'll be called a anti-education guy, and you want them to take the black people and make them even more stupid because you don't want them to have an education. I mean, that'll be turned against you.
Sure.
You in your campaign, you need something where people can identify with. For example, in New York, and I know very little about Virginia. I was in Virginia once in my life, but in New York, one of the big problems was rent control. Because of rent control, all the apartments were for crap. Because they couldn't put any money into them, and good neighborhoods turned into slums. Well, I mean, for example, and this is only an example, if in fact your district was going to do away with rent control, and I'm sure you don't have it there,
Sure.
That would be a big step. Now, there would be some pros and some cons, but I think you're going to have to give these people something that, some takeaway. You can't change the education system from where you are because it's so deeply embedded, it's going to take beyond federal registration. I don't think it'll ever change,
Sure.
But you're going to have to address how people in general, not I shouldn't say these people, but this applies to everyone, how their lives will be improved with less government interference, and the less government interference would include what?
Well, less government interference is less taxes, more money in their pockets. I don't think it typically reaches that community as well, but I do want to eliminate a lot of fees and ways that double taxation exists. This may be something, whether it's for the black community or not. It's, for instance, when you go to buy a car, you get a registration, you have a license fee, you have sales tax, you have gas tax, you have personal property tax. That's 5 different taxes. We are taxing on one thing. We need to eliminate things like that because the communities that actually need transportation to get to work are struggling. Transportation is important because those are the means of getting to work and actually allowing production to happen. So is it something you're trying to talk about, or?
I know. Could you identify the obstacles that exist right now in your neighborhood that are preventing people from succeeding, from moving forward? If you can identify them and analyze whether or not they are legitimate, I mean, not the obstacle is legitimate, but I mean, there's logical reasons why they're there, and if not, if removed, their lives can be better. How do we get people from? They're not going to get jobs with IBM. Let's be honest, because IBM's not going to open up a major office in your area. So people have to rely on their own. For example, in some states, if a person bakes cakes and sells them out of the house, they'll get arrested because they don't have a license, to sell cakes out of their house. They need a permit to a food handler's permit, the Department of Health permit, all this other stuff. Now, are there things on a very, very local level, things that people do every day? I remember that in Harlem, there would be guys on street corners with blocks of ice and a razor, a scraper, and they used to make snow cones, and they would sell them. They had no permit. There was no nothing. That's how they made their money. Yeah. I mean, so these people actually did very well with for themselves until the government came by and you needed a food handler's permit, you needed a peddler's permit to be on that corner, and everyone went out of business, But I'm just talking about grassroots, very, very basics. What could you tell these people? And whether it be black, white, yellow, green, blue, it makes no difference. Is there practical things that you can do to say, we're going to eliminate this particular law, I can get this passed so that you can work out of your house and become an entrepreneur and become successful? What are those things?
I think right now it's actually has to do a lot with zoning laws in Virginia when it comes to, you got to be commercial, you got to be residential, you got to be, and I think it happens a lot in a lot of other states as well. And if you're not commercial, you cannot do business from that place, unless it's in your house, unless it's your own personal office or something like that. But you can't actually sell any products from your from a non-commercial area. And I think that especially in Richmond, the areas where a lot of black community is located, they should be able to, allowed to sell what they want from where they want, as long as it's not hurting anybody. So that's really what it comes down to. And the thing is, we also need to start enforcing these contracts, because right now, with all these, if it's not legal. So for instance, or outside the zoning laws, these contracts would not be enforced by Virginia, and that can cause a lot of problems as well. So,
zoning laws have destroyed industry in America. Zoning laws are insane. I live in a housing development, regular middle class housing development, and if I want a loaf of bread, I have to drive 2 miles. Because the zoning laws would not allow for a small grocery store, mom and pop grocery store in our area where we can walk, get some exercise, buy it, come back, save a lot on gasoline, and have a neighborhood as we had a neighborhood in Harlem where I grew up. And so I think zoning laws are very, very disruptive. Now,
Absolutely.
What is the position of your opponents? What position are they taking, and what are their hot buttons, and how are you addressing them?
Well, that's a very hard question, actually, because their hot buttons haven't really came out. They have been.
Oh, they're not actively campaigning at this point, so you don't know what they are, right?
Well, they don't. They're the one hop. We had a forum the other week. A hot button for them, I guess, would be they are for pre-K education, and I was opposed to it. I was the only candidate of the three other candidates that were.
Why are you against pre-K education?
Well, because I don't think we can't fix a system that's not working as it is. I guess you could say the education system isn't working right now. Why are we going to add more? Why are we going to have more government in places that it can't even work originally, and now we're going to add more to the educational system where it's not working?
What is pre-K education? Explain that to me. Pre-K.
Pre-K.
No,
pre-K. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said prepaid.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Pre-K
Yes.
education. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jesus, when you get old, your ears go first. You know that. Actually, your mind go first, but you say your ears makes you feel better. Okay, so pre-K education. We need pre-K education, like we need hemorrhoids. I mean, I guess we should be going in the opposite direction. We should be doing away with education as we know it and leave education up to the family. If the family wants to send some kid to a military school at the age of 5 years old, that is their decision. If another one wants to homeschool them, that's their decision. It has nothing to do with the state. The government should be out of education 100%. That's my opinion. Do you ever express that opinion?
I do. Well, I haven't said 100% because I think that really worries people. But I do agree that a privatized educational system would be very, very, very helpful and actually improve people's standard of learning. And
give them an option. They want to go to government, that's fine. But if they want to go to government, they got to pay for it.
Absolutely.
Lower my taxes, raise your taxes. I'm fine with that.
And actually, I've thought about this, and I hate saying making a new tax law or anything like that, but I've considered. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but right now, our personal property taxes are paying for the school systems as well as the Virginia lottery.
Same here in Oklahoma, and I hate that. I hate that.
And I'm actually from Long Island, New York, originally. So,
you are? Which part of Long Island?
Westbury.
Okay, I know Westbury.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yes,
My sister used to live in Old Brookville. Brookville. Yeah, very wealthy. Very, very wealthy person.
Yeah, of course. But they had school taxes separate from your personal property taxes. Now, I don't want to increase taxes at all. That's not what I'm about. What I'm about is designation of where the taxes go. So you as the taxpayer will know where your taxes are going to. Yeah. That way, so I rather, even though what I want to do is lower personal property taxes and maybe have a separate and split it. So you know where your school taxes are going, and you know where your personal property taxes are going. And the school funds can only be used for school. The personal property can only be used for, I don't even want personal property tax, but it's going to be hard enough to get rid of that. But and that way, the people who are on, who are doing the school taxes, we can hopefully just create a subsidy for the government for people who are on those government school taxes, rather than making everybody, even the elderly, the poor who choose not to go to school and continue to work, to not pay those taxes and only allow those who actually use the system to pay those taxes.
What's the mix of your district? Black, white, yellow, green, whatever. How does it work out?
I think it's around 26% black.
Yeah.
And then it's mostly majority is white, and then I think it's like 1 or 2% other.
Okay. Is it primarily a Republican?
Well, it actually was a Republican seat. Now, I mean, the last couple races, the Republicans gotten, 56%, which is, a two-way race. So, that was the last two times, the two elections that he ran, and it got lower. I think it went from 58 to 56. It's going down, and it's because our district is gerrymandered outrageously, but Richmond has started picking up some more of the Democratic votes.
I see.
So, because Richmond's gotten bigger, and there's another county outside of Richmond that's also, Richmond's kind of expanded out there.
Richmond is a relatively wealthy city, isn't it?
I would say so. Yes, it's not rich, but there's definitely some parts of Richmond that are very, very wealthy, and then other parts that are, not looking too good, I guess.
Right. I guess like most cities. Okay.
Yes,
now,
yes.
How do you have any idea where you stand in the polls right now?
There hasn't been any polls in existence. I would assume there's four total candidates, including me. I would assume I'm in third. I did get a pretty hefty start with my campaign. I've done a lot so far. I've been in the headlines way more than the independent candidate, and that's because of my last name, as well as my last name is not.
Oh God, that's gotta be a tough one.
I think the newspaper likes putting that loser libertarian guy.
Yeah, that's
right. So I've gotten a lot of headlines, and people recognize the name loser, whether they've seen my name or not.
You can that can play in your favor.
Absolutely, and I always say, well, vote loser, win liberty.
Okay, very good. Well, we're about out of time. We're actually a little bit over, but that's fine because we own the air here, and I want to give you the last minute to sum things up for our listeners.
Okay, well, like I said, my name's Carl Loser. Well, actually, it's actually pronounced Loser. It's a German last name, but I don't care what you call me. I'm happy.
Never gonna happen.
I'm running on 3 principles. It's creating economic opportunity, ending prohibition, and equal treatment under the law. And with those 3 principles, I think I can make Virginia a better place to live. And that's the goal of my campaign. Right now, I would say the Republican or Democrat. Well, I'm most likely thinking the Republican is going to win this election. I'm being realistic. I am putting a lot of effort. I do want to win. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a realist, and I think that my goal is about 20% of the vote. And
that's great.
That's a very realistic goal, and I only need 33. So 20% is great. I would love 30, 33, 34%. So, I would love your vote if you're listening to me. And thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it, Joe.
All right. Well, Carl, you have my vote. Unfortunately, it's not going to count. And thank you so much for being on our program, and good luck to you.
You.
All right, thank you. Okay, folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, as my wife would say, you are either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. Unfortunately, folks, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. You've been listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well, stay tuned.